Hello my scrappy friends and welcome to my channel again today. This is my second share for Anna's Craft Cupboard with the Pink Fresh Studio Let's Stay Home collection, and this is the page that I have created. I had so much fun with this. I actually started with the photo a little bit smaller and then decided to print it bigger, and the reason I chose to print it bigger, you can see right there, that title and that love heart fit perfectly on that photo at that size. It's about 6 by 8. And so that is why I went with the bigger photo. I am using that gorgeous Two Kind Hearts pattern paper in the background. It's got that beautiful mustard yellow on the back, and I don't want to waste any of it, which you'll see me get to in a minute. I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to fussy cut this particular pattern paper. I wanted this rainbow for something else, and I love the rainbow on this rainbow hearts pattern paper as well. So you can see I'm just cutting that out. I found that these little scissors just seem to work a little bit easier for me. I'm going to trim out all those colours. After consulting my 10-year-old, he insisted that I use the next colour over next to the white. He insisted it was pink. So I have cut that out, and then I wanted to incorporate this lighter pink that's on the bottom, and I've used that corally colour as kind of a guide as to where to cut. So I've just trimmed that out, and I'm just erasing my pencil line. So what I've got here, I've matched all of my colours here to some Distress Oxide inks. You can see I'm just adding a little bit of detail to the edges here. I'm just inking up the edges with a foam blending tool, and I'm going to do that to all of these colours. So the pink is Spun Sugar, and then the next colour over I used was Abandoned Coral, and then I think the next colour from memory, because I can't see the layout right now, was the Hickory Smoke, which I used on the white. I've used Seedless Preserves on that pinky purpley colour. I think Blueprint Sketch on the darker blue, and then Tumble Glass on the lightest blue. And you can see what I did there. I knew my photo was going to go smack bang in the middle of this page, so I literally marked the center of the page and I cut a hole that so my photo is 6 by 8, so it's like 5.5 by 7.5. I used my craft knife to cut out the center of that, and I knew I wanted to add mixed media, so I am making sure that there's something on the back of this that is just plain copy paper. I've taped it onto the back. I'm just going to go through and add some wet glue here so that those edges don't lift at all. Like I said, I am going to use some mixed media on here. I'm just using my tacky glue here around the 4 edges. And once that is completely dry, I will be able to go back in with some clear gesso. What am I doing? So there's my clear gesso, and I am literally just going to, I've got a couple of marks on that. I should never ever work with white or light. I just shouldn't. Anyway, so you can see I've just added that clear gesso, showing you here the stitching detail that I've added, and you can see a better look at the inking that I've done as well. I'm just tacking these down in place. I'm like, yep, that's where everything's going. I'm really happy with that. Then I'm going to go back in with my lead pencil again, and I'm marking on either side of each of those arches where it sits. So I'm going slightly underneath the colour so that after I've done all my mixed media, you cannot see my pencil lines at all. And for now, I've left the threads long. I have gone through each of the colours and stitched in matching thread on my sewing machine, and I did literally just tack down those arches with like 3 pieces of double-sided tape from my tape runner so that I could pull them up again. I knew I wanted to distress the edges, but I didn't want them super distressed, and I found that the edge of my scissors was the best way to get some distressing. Because the paper was so thin, my distressing distressing tool wasn't working fantastically. So I'm not going to make you watch all this because it is not the most exciting thing in the world to watch. But I go through each of those. I'll give you a little bit of a close-up here of that. Okay, so back to my background, and I am using those same colours again. And I realised at this point that I kind of didn't really know where to follow that line along. So I've grabbed out these arches again and my lead pencil again, and I'm just marking along that arch a few spots so that I kind of can follow that line a little bit. What I was after here was some really soft rainbow colour, so it kind of looked like my rainbow was leaking, for lack of a better word. Just leaking a little bit of colour onto my background. So that is the tumbled glass. This colour is super light, so I do have to do a few coats of this, and I have sped up this fairly quickly because it is the same process repeated a number of times. So tumbled glass, and I'm just kind of letting the edges, I go back in I think, and let the edges blend out a little bit more so they're a bit softer. Blueprint Sketch, I'm pretty sure is this colour. This colour is, it's a really good match to this blue here. So again, I'm like, oh, how am I going to mash this up? So I go back in with my pencil. And I don't mind if the colours overlap, like where they join up. In fact, I probably want them to a little bit, just so I don't have any really harsh lines. In the end, this watercolour is not super obvious on my finished page, but it is a subtle detail, and I'm really happy I did it. And because I've got that gesso on the background as well, the colours do dry a bit lighter than what you would expect. So I'm coming in here with water and just kind of activating that line along where the two colours meet. I'm going to come back in again with the tumbled glass, just so that it's more of an even blend of the lighter going into the darker and the darker going into the lighter, if that makes sense. You see I tip it up just a little bit, just to get that blend happening. And so I'm going to go through and do that with the rest of the colours. Now I make a mistake here, but it kind of works in my favour. I got my colours around the wrong way here. This is not meant to be the white one, which explains why I had so much trouble lining this up. But I do mark out the line, and then I realised at this point that I don't need to go all the way across where that paper is in the middle. So I just mark those two spots and then join my lines up. So that white does fade out the hearts a little bit, which is exactly what I was hoping for. And I'm going to get this to blend a little bit. I'm using India ink for this, white India ink. And because I have watered it down, it is more like a watercolor. Sorry, excuse me. So you can see I'm going back through and getting the white and the blue to kind of blend together, so I've got that soft edge. Seedless Preserves. So this was meant to be that purpley pink colour. This Seedless Preserves is a perfect match, but the colour itself was a little bit bolder than what I wanted for my background. So putting that white on first actually worked really well. If I hadn't told you that I made a mistake, you wouldn't know. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just getting those two colours to blend a little bit, so I don't have those harsh lines. And from here, I'm going to go back the other way because I know that my next colour is going to be white. So I jump down to this one, which is the pink, which is the light, which is the worn lipstick, no, spun sugar. So again, I'm just going back in. By this point, I have worked out I don't need to paint over that paper completely. I do have to add a few coats of this colour. Again, this is a really soft colour, but it's beautiful. I love it. It's one of my favourites. Abandoned Coral here. I was unsure about this colour, but when it's watered down, it's actually a really, really good match. Really impressed. I did start with a different colour to do my inking, but I can't remember which color it was I picked, but it matched exactly the color that the color that the paper is. So I was like, that's not really going to work. You can't see my ink blending. I'm going to come in with the white here. Again, I'm watering it down a little bit and making sure that where it overlaps, it's kind of blending a little bit. And I chose the paintbrush that I'm using because it's about the same width as the rainbow arches that I'm painting. It just kind of balanced it, matched it, sorry. So I went back in and added another coat of the pink. I am adding glue just along the center line where my stitching is. I have a little bit of trouble gluing this down. Excuse me, I seem to have a bit of a tickly throat at the moment. All right, so you can see here I'm adding the glue, and because my background is quite warped, it's not sticking. It is not sticking. I'm like, what is going on here? So I smush that down, I grab my gesso tab and I pop that on top, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to just glue half down. Again, I don't make you watch all this, so I get it to this point, I'm going to move my gesso tab and then it cuts out. You can see I am coming back from the other side. I'm holding down the ones I've already stuck down, moving that gesso tab. That's a candle. And then I'm coming back in with my wet glue again and plonking some glue along that thread line. I'm going to hold that in place for a minute. The lid goes on the glue, and then paper pad, lots of paper. This is part of my Cocoa Vanilla Studio papers, so I just plonked it on top and moved it over to the side and continued on. This is light pink basil cardstock. I am just going to add a fairly thin mat around my photo in this colour. I've also stitched around my photo. And then this yellow, I just love I really wanted to add something that wasn't prominent in the background, so any of those rainbow colours, behind the photo to really make it pop. I didn't want to add blue because there's so much blue in the photo, and obviously there's blue in the rainbow. But this yellow is in the hearts in the background, and so I'm like, yep, that's what I'm going to use. This is actually a Stampin' Up cardstock that I've had in my stash for years. It's Summer Starfruit, and I've got the matching ink pad. So I'm just going to ink up the edges. I figured I had inked everything else, so I may as well ink this. And then I'm going to ink the edges of the pink as well, and I'm just using the spun sugar for this. I'm not being particularly careful, just getting a little bit of extra interest to these layers. I'm going to I decided to distress the edges the same way I had distressed the edges on the rainbow, just with my scissors, because it was a little bit without being too much. Layer these together, and then add my photo on top. From memory, I think I mount all of this on foam. Yep. I'm like, yep, I love how this is looking. I'm going to try it on my background. No, I'm not going to try it on my background. I am going to trim my background down. Yes, this was a little bit scary. I did have a little bit of trouble cutting through the thread and the paper and the glue, but I have trimmed it down 1/4 of an inch on all 4 sides. I did a bit of an experiment off camera, and you can see on the top right hand corner on the inside there, I have used this same Summer Starfruit colour, and I am blending colour on because I knew I wanted to bring that yellow around the page a bit more. And since I didn't have another piece of that beautiful pattern paper, I was like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And this is what I decided to do. And I love it. I love, 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 love what the yellow in this collection. And I'm sorry, you will hear me say it again and again and again with these layouts. The yellow I love it. So I am sticking my background down using a bit of tape on one side, and then I'm going back in with my Scotch tacky glue all the way around the edge, making sure that is stuck. Again, I think yep, pattern paper. Back to my photo again, and I'm going to stick my title down. I'm loving these Annabelle pieces at the moment. Absolutely loving them. So this one says, "Lovin' this life." This is my boys, obviously. We were at Esperance over the New Year, and I just snapped this photo of them standing on the foreshore. It's absolutely beautiful. I'd never been before, and I had so many people say to me, "Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful there, Mel. You'll love it. You'll love it." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no worries." Now I don't know what happened, but I lost footage, it seems. So I added a little bit of cluster to the top right, a little bit of a cluster to the bottom left, a couple of stickers. My journaling is tucked in behind the photo. I've added in the word Esperance underneath my photo, and I think that's it. I may have finished off with some enamel dots. So I'm not sure what happened to my footage, but I'm sure enamel dots. So I'm not sure what happened to my footage, but it's not here. I have distressed the edges of the stickers and the die cuts and stuff. If you do have any questions about any of that, please leave them below. Otherwise, that is my second share. I've got 2 more to come. I hope you're enjoying these. I had so much fun working with this collection. As always, thanks so much for stopping by, and I will be back again soon with a couple more shares. Have a fantastic scrappy day. Bye!